Lesson 4-5, Example 3. Our objective is learning to write equivalent fractions. And in this case, we want to look at bringing fractions down to its simplest form. And simplest form for a fraction means that a fraction has, when the greatest common factor of the numerator and the denominator is 1. So when both of these numbers, when the numerator and the denominator, their greatest common factor is 1, then we have it in simplified form. Well, here we have a greatest common factor that's larger than 1. So we can, to find out the simplest form, we can use greatest common factor. And the greatest common factor of 20 and 48 is 4. And if I know that's 4, then I can divide the numerator and the denominator by 4 and come up with my simplest equivalent fraction. So 20 divided by 4 is 5, and 48 divided by 4 is 12. So 5/12 is the simplest form of an equivalent fraction for 20/48. Now that's not the only method that we could use to find out the simplest form for this fraction. We could also use prime factorization. And so if we can figure out, if we can think that the prime factorization of these two numbers, so 20, the prime factorization of 20 is 2 times 2 times 5. And the prime factorization of 48 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So we can think that of these as 2 over 2, 2 over 2, and 2 divided by 2 is just 1, and that means that we can kind of cross those out. Same with this one. So now we're left, though, we have nothing else in common. We can think that we have 5 over 2 times 2 times 3, which is 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12, and I'm left with 5/12. So I can use prime factorization to come up with my simplest form as well. Now there's one more method that I'd like to show you here, and that's kind of what I'm going to refer to as sort of the reducing method. You might not always right away either recognize the greatest common factor or even be able to quickly come up with the prime factorization. But you could recognize, thinking about divisibility rules, think about what factor goes for both the numerator and the denominator. For example, I know that these are both even numbers, so I can divide both of them by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. So I can ask myself, is this simplest form? Or are there factors here other than 1 and the numbers themselves? Do they have anything in common? Well, they're both even numbers. That means that I can divide them by 2 again. And 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So I'm going to ask myself again, do these two numbers, the numerator and the denominator, have any factors in common? Well, 5 is a prime number, so the only factors are 1 and 5 is not a factor of 12. 1 is a factor, and if my greatest common factor for these two numbers is 1, that means I have simplest form. So those are 3 methods you can use to determine and get down, take a fraction to its simplest form.